Today we're going to be talking about creating a marketing campaign. And a marketing campaign can be very separate or different than what you're currently doing in marketing in your business. Ultimately, what a marketing campaign is all about is how to systematize or mechanically bring together your business so that everything you're doing in marketing is working towards one another. So you have a set system and a set process to bring your clients in the most effective way. So today, a couple of results I really want us all to walk away with is one, I want you all to have 1 to 2 tactics that you can use that are active and passive. So you actually think about what are active and passive tactics that I can use in my marketing campaign. And I want you to have a strategy to actually start to think about how I can actually use these tactics to strategically get towards my client. So you're going to see on the screen there's a couple things we're going to go over that refer to that. And we're going to give you a set process to actually develop and create your own marketing campaign. So why are we doing this? So myself included, and most of the entrepreneurs I know out there, spend a lot of time marketing their business. And most of the time you should be. In fact, it's one of the most important things you can do in your business. But when you spend most of the time in your business marketing and you're not getting results, it can be extremely frustrating. But marketing doesn't have to be something that you fear because you're not getting results out of. I have seen it in a lot of entrepreneurs where they go out and they market for say 20 hours a week and they put their heart and soul and everything they have into it and they end up getting maybe say 1 lead. And they start to realize that 1 lead is maybe worth maybe $5 to me, or say $5 an hour to me. And ultimately, the frustration in that realization really demotivates your ability to get out there and do it again and again and again. So today we're going to flip this on its head and we're going to get you to make results from the marketing strategies that you put out there and get you making money and ultimately running the business the way you want to run it. So today what we want to do is get you getting results in your marketing strategies and ultimately create a campaign so that you can mechanize everything that you're doing. It's a really cool set process. So let's take a look at a couple key things that we have on this sheet that really help focus what that actually means. So in any marketing campaign, you have to be able to decipher the difference between a tactic and a strategy. So a tactic is ultimately anything in your business that you're going to go do. So flyers could be a tactic, cold calling could be a tactic, signs could be a tactic, networking events could be a tactic. Tons of different things in your business that you do to get leads or to get clients are tactics. And then a strategy, what a strategy is basically what are the things you do within those tactics to customize them or to cater them or to tweak them to make them better fit what you're trying to achieve. So I'll give you an example of that. So let's say I wanted to put out signs. Now I could put out signs in my local city. I could put them in, on the internet and put signs up on banners. I could do tons of different things, but ultimately maybe in my specific business, I know I want to cater towards the homeowner in say Abbotsford, BC. So in that specific city obviously is where I'm going to put my signs, but I'm going to get even more specific. I'm going to figure out where my ideal client actually lives in that area of the city, and I'm going to put signs out on the specific neighborhoods that client lives in. So that way my signs aren't spread out all over the city, they're actually spread out just in the area that my client lives in. And here's another good strategy, is I'm not just going to put them in that area, but I'm going to put them in all the major arteries, all the major roads that feed into that residential neighborhood. So now I know I want a residential client that lives in Abbotsford, and I know that they go to work every day, so I'm probably going to put all these signs in the areas where they commute to and from work to get into the residential neighborhood and out again. So that's the difference between a tactic and a strategy. A tactic would simply be signs. A strategy would be able to detail about where to place my signs and how to do it so that I get the most results for what I'm doing. And then ultimately with that I can start to create a bit of a campaign given a few different tactics and a few different strategies combined together. So that's the difference between a strategy and a tactic. The next thing that's really important to know is the difference between an active and passive tactic. So people go out and do things like I just mentioned, signs or flyers or radio ads or commercials or whatever they are. But what those all are passive tactics. So what passive tactics are ultimately are things that you're sending out your message to your client and they're seeing it, but they're not necessarily asked to make a choice. They're not given a choice once they have that strategy or that tactic, in front of them. So they're not given a choice once they have that tactic in front of them. The difference between passive and active obviously is active is you're giving your client a choice when you're in front of them. So a really good example of an active tactic is say cold calling or door-to-door sales. So I see a lot of people go out and do door-to-door sales and get terrible results sometimes though. Now they're giving their client a choice, but a lot of times their client is choosing no because they feel bothered. So I'm going to go through the difference between these two, but also give you an idea of how they work well together. So if you've got only active tactics in your business, say all you're doing is cold calling, you might find that a lot of the people that you're trying to call are frustrated and a little annoyed with your direct way of doing sale or doing marketing. And if you're doing passive, you might send out a ton of flyers, you might put up a ton of signs, you might do a ton of different things where people are seeing your message but not calling you because they have no call to action. They don't have a reason to do it now. They might just want to do it later. So the key between these two things is to actually combine them so that they work well together. You have enough active and you have enough passive so that somebody can recognize you, understand who you are through passive, and then be called to action and be asked to make a choice through active. And the combination of these two things together really creates an effective marketing strategy when you're starting to look at tactics in your business. So if you start with just this, what I'd like you to do is through your current tactics that you use in your business or through new ones that you want to look up and maybe research, to write down 2 to 3 active tactics that you can use to market your business and 2 to 3 passive tactics that you can use to market your business. If you already have them and you already use them, great, write them down. If you've got a bunch of passive, which a lot of us do, and a very few active, which is very common in most businesses, maybe go online and take a look and see what kind of things you could do that would actively ask your client, a call to action to actually get them to say yes or no to you, to your service. Once you've got those written down, we'll move to the next step. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. Just pause the video, and once you've got those written down, we'll start back up again. All right. So now that you've got these passive and active tactics down, let's look at strategy a little more in depth. So strategy ultimately is your marketing campaign. So it's how we're going to use these tactics in your business. The biggest thing about your strategies is they need to be detailed. They need to be pretty realistic. You need to be able to implement them here and now and be able to have them cost effective. They need to be relevant to what you're actually trying to achieve, so nothing too pie in the sky. And they need to be simple. Biggest thing is if you have a simple strategy, you can get out there and start it tomorrow. Not something that's going to take a month to develop. It's a simple strategy that takes little time to implement and more time getting results. So let me show you what these strategies can actually kind of look like. And this is ultimately the machines that you start to create. So I talked a little bit about signs and flyers and cold calling. So here's an actual strategy that looks similar to that. So I started with signs. I said, okay, I'm going to place major signs into my residential intersections. And then my next thing is my next tactic. I'm going to actually go and put personal flyers out. I'm going to ensure every home has seen my face. So actually the personal flyers will actually have my face on them. Again, that's a strategic note I wanted to write because I wanted people, residential homeowners, to know exactly who I was. The next thing I would do is I would go out and do personalized door knockers. So I'd actually write a personalized note on the door knocker to actually get the client recognizing not only who I am, but what I have to offer and reading it. And the last thing to do is finally go cold call, but at that point it's more of a warm call than anything. Introduce myself and ask for the sale. So I've got 3 passive tactics, 1 active tactic, and this is ultimately my closer. Now what is even neater about this is you can start to think about, well, how does this all interact with one another? Do I do this all in the same day? Do I do this all in the same week? Or do I do this all at once? When do I do it? Well, maybe I'll put signs up in one area for a week. And that same week I'll go to another area and just put out personal flyers. The same week I'll go to another area and put out personal door knockers. And that same week I'll go to a 4th area and warm call it. Every week then I'll rotate over and I'll put the different tactics moving over to one. So that next week, week 2, signs will go down to this area. Personal flyers will go down to this area. And warm calling will go back into the signs area. So they all rotate. So people are seeing different tactics every single week with me, and they're getting introduced to me slowly so that by the time I'm warm calling them, they've usually had these 3 things done first. It's a very unique way you can actually do things. So this is my mechanism. This is my machine. And basically it actually rotates off something called crop rotation. So if you've ever heard of crop rotation before, all I'm doing is I'm looking at each area of my city as a crop, and I'm slowly giving it different types of nutrients to harvest it at the end with my warm calling. It's a very cool set strategy. That's just one. There's millions of them that you can come up with. In fact, let's show you another one just to give you an idea of how different things can actually look. So ultimately here is what Best Mindset uses to actually market its own business. So we have externals, internal clients, and we have networked clients. And below them we have all our different tactics that we use for each area. So we have home shows, Chamber of Commerce, Board of Trade events, networking groups, and Dragon's Den Coach for all of our external channels. For internally, we have monthly seminars that we host, awards nights that we host with Make Your Mark, training seminars that we go out to and talk to a lot of our clients in, and just ultimately our own company database. Ultimately, a lot of times our own company database and your own database is sometimes some of the best areas to go when you want to get new clients. Network. Well, everyone at the group tends to refer a friend or two. So we get a lot of referrals from our group members. Also, some of our client database in general likes to refer people to Best Mindset Group. So here's all the different avenues that we get people in. Once they pull a person in, we give them a trial. We allow them to experience Best Mindset. After that, they have a choice to make, become a member or not a member. And that is the marketing strategy and the machine, basically, that feeds Best Mindset. So two very different businesses, two very different marketing strategies and campaigns, but they work and they ultimately get results in the businesses they work towards. So your business is ultimately going to be maybe similar or different than anything I've just showed you now, but the biggest thing to think about is, what are my tactics? How many of them can be active and passive? It's always good to have a good mix of the two. And then how does the strategy going to all play out? Ultimately, what are the specific things that I can do with my tactics to make them more catered towards getting me results? And with those things, creating a bit of a machine, creating a marketing campaign can look like a mechanism. So these are mechanized in a certain way. So what I'll do, this is actually bubble.us that I've used to actually create some of the campaign strategy behind some of what I just showed you here. I'll put a link in the description. Feel free to use this or even on a piece of paper. But what I'd like you to do is to ultimately come up with your tactics, active and passive, and then write down your strategy, and then write down the machine that you're going to use to market your business. This will get you more results, get you more effective, and ultimately get you moving in the fast lane for your business. I trust this has helped you, and we'll see you at your next Best Mindset session.